Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, the 24th of November, 2021. Welcome to Change the Shed. I am in my studio in Fort Collins, Colorado, and just doing some tapestry weaving today. I'm glad you're all here. I was looking at your comments before I jumped on and hear from all over as usual, Ireland and the Bay Area and Texas, and Hilly's here from the Netherlands, and Nan from Woodstock, which is a great place. Jocelyn, welcome, Idaho. I'm going to talk about my floor loom today, and some of you have questions already about that, so that is great. And you're working on stuff. Nancy in Scotland is making Dorset buttons. That's so cool. So many fun things to do with fiber. So I am playing with this camera setup, and it is not perfect yet, but I have an idea to try for next time on this loom, which will be a little bit better. But in the meantime, I just want to tell you up front that for me to be able to see your questions, the computer is on the right, and it's going to look a little weird because I have two other cameras, and it bothers some of you, as you have told me, when I'm not actually looking at the camera that I'm speaking to. But today, please just give me a pass because I have to move some furniture around to fix the camera situation. And I wanted to show you this today, so I'm going for it. Lynn in Edinburgh went to see the Cordis Prize exhibition this week. I'm so jealous. Lynn, now you've gotten to see both the Archie Brennan exhibition and the Cordis Prize. I'm so jealous. Anyway, that's fantastic. Go and see tapestry if you can. If you all are in Scotland, please go see the Cordis Prize exhibition if you can. I know that the COVID stuff is up and down, but if you're allowed to go and see it, I'm sure they have a lot of precautions there. So I would love to see it. I have been blown away by the tapestries in there. So. Hello, Judy from Vancouver Island in BC. Yay, your first time coming live. That's great. It's fun to jump on live. And I'm glad you're taking the Intro to Tapestry class and that you've learned a lot about tapestry. That's fun. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason I teach. I weave tapestry because I freaking love it. It's one of those things I just can't not do, so I keep doing it. And I also love teaching, so that worked out for me. Hello, Paula from Northumberland, UK. And Nashville. And Anna also saw the Cordis. I know several other people have told me they've gone to see it. And fortunately, the photos are pretty good. I've seen some really nice photos, but it's never quite the same as, I didn't realize that one piece that has the panel that turns, the toothpaste piece, I didn't actually realize that moved because, of course, all the photos I saw were, static. So I'm just making a note to make sure I put a link to the Cordis Prize. If you don't know about it, I think the URL is just tapestryprize.org or something like that. But I'll put a link in the, I call it the show notes on my website for Change the Shed if you want to go and look at all of those tapestries. But if you just Google Cordis, Cordis, you should be able to find it. Awesome. So I'm happy you're here, and I am working on my floor loom. So this is my Harrisville rug loom, which is my favorite loom ever in the world, always. It has a warp extender on the back, which I might even be able to show you with this webcam. See how the warp behind the weaving, let's see if I can even point to it without dropping my computer. Here. So the warp here is up on a bar. There's a dark bar right there. That's the warp. So the warp is wound on a beam like you would expect, but then it comes up over a perfectly smooth bar and around and to where you're weaving. So that warp extender, that bar comes down as you weave, which means that the back beam never has to turn unless your tapestry is really big. which means the tension is fantastic. So that is number one reason I love this loom. It's also a countermarch loom, so it holds a fantastic tension. The shed, if you want it to be big, is huge. You'll notice that I have it set so the shed is not that large, but you can make it so that the shed is huge. If you're weaving rugs or something, you want a big shed to throw your shuttle through. You can make it do that. It also has a worm gear on the front, which means that the tension is infinitely adjustable. So you know how on a lot of floor looms where you'll turn the beam and you can move it as far as the little ratchets will go. However many teeth are in that beam is how, the next turn has to be to the next tooth. Well, a worm gear means that it's infinitely adjustable. It has a special little screw thing that means you can turn the beam just a little bit at a time. So those two things make this, in my opinion, one of the best tapestry looms ever made. But I also like floor loom. This is how I learned tapestry, was weaving on a floor loom. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. I just realized I did not even think about my, I usually use a different microphone, but hopefully my microphone on my computer is picking things up okay. Next time I will try to figure out a little different position for the camera. Oh, I just heard from upstairs that the audio's good, so we're good. Okay, so let me show you what I'm working on. Hopefully all the cameras are still on. Here is the tapestry. It's called Wildflowers, or I'm calling it the Wildflower tapestry. And I'm going to add, so this is maybe this will be fine. I have another camera here, but my computer is here, so I apologize for the change, but in future I will try to locate the computer somewhere else. So I know that'll drive some of you nuts, but here is the tapestry. So the start of it is here, right at the edge of that white, and I keep wanting to say I've woven 4 inches, but I don't think it's 4 inches. Let's see, just so we have a marker. It's 3.5 inches so far. It's 24 inches wide, so this is 40 inches, and I'm weaving it sideways, so it will be turned the other way. This will be the up and down direction, and then it will only be 24 inches deep this way. So I've already woven 3.5 inches. It's like a miracle. Today I'm working on, well, you saw me do the sample, and I decided to use the thru wool for the white background with a strand of that Treenway silk. I like it. I like it so far. We'll see what happens. This is one of those instances where I just really wanted to try it, so I'm going for it. The colored yarns are Array from Gist, and I also like the texture there of those. They're a little bit more shiny than the wool. I mean, they are wool, but they're shinier than the thru. And you can see I've done 2 shapes there, or 3 of these shapes. There are 12 in the piece. And I'm at a point where I have to build up the next bit of white to fill in the next shape, which will be this color and this color. So I'll do a gradation from this color to this color. And this shape goes about that far. And I'm doing eccentric outlines as I weave, and I'm doing partial dark outlines. And I weave from the back, so I'm sorry about all the tails. I am not yet completely sure about cutting the Array yarn off. I would, if this were Harrisville singles that I usually use for my tapestries, I would have already cut all of these tails off, and you would be able to see these forms without any tails on them. But I'm not 100% sure yet about the Array, and I don't want to cut it off and find out that I've ruined the piece. So the concern being that with some yarns, this is true of Weaver's Bazaar Fine for sure. It's a really slick wool, and it pops the little tails if you cut them off, like I'm used to after splicing. I cut them off from the back. If I do that with the Weaver's Bazaar, especially if it's not a really tightly woven piece, they'll pop forward to the front. Don't want that happening, so I'm still hedging on the array until the sample that I used, I need to move it around a little more and make sure that those tails aren't going to pop out before I cut these. And if they do, I will either leave them cut to about 1 inch, or I will needle them in, one or the other. So that's what I'm working on. Yeah, Marianne, good question. Do I use a mirror? So you'll also have to excuse all of my reaching and everything else. This is just how, excuse me, how it works. This is an old bathroom mirror that I have repurposed for this. I also actually often use an acrylic sheet. This is actually a good tip. This, one day I'll break this, and then I will get an acrylic sheet, because they don't break, or they're a lot harder to break. So yes, she wanted to know if I ever use a mirror. So sometimes if I'm unsure about, like here, let's see, can you see that? Yeah. Here I'm working on, I wanted to see, oh, am I going to like those outlines? They're not black, they're colored. And they're a dark version of the complement of one of the colors they're bordering. So I sometimes will do this and just peek through and see. I also sometimes do it for form reasons, like, is that going to be smooth enough, or did I get the hills and valleys the way I want them, and how does it look on the front? So this with a handle is nice. It would be, I think, possible to get a really big acrylic sheet and hang it underneath, which I have thought about, or even just setting it on. I could set a board across. You can't see what I'm doing. There's a cross piece just below this beater. Can you see the beater? Yeah. Where I actually rest my cartoon when I'm not using it. And I could put an acrylic sheet under there, like on a little shelf or something. So I might test that out. That's a new idea. So basically, I was hoping today to get to the point where I can start putting in this next color, but I have a ways to go on this white. As always, bubbling. My butterflies are giving me trouble. This is my usual yarn for big tapestries is Harrisville Kohler singles, which I hand dye. And there is no Harrisville Kohler singles or any hand dye in this piece at all. So the yarns aren't behaving like I'm used to. I mean, I use them in small pieces. I've used all of these yarns for years, but always in small pieces where I'm just using lengths of yarn or putting them on a little bobbin. And I don't usually use them in butterflies, so the thru works really well in butterflies, but I've added a piece of silk. And so this silk is sometimes tangling. The thru it's behaving pretty well, though. I'll probably keep using the butterflies. But I'm having some trouble with the array in butterflies because it is definitely tangling at the end, which I have a lot of patience with it for a while, and then I lose my patience. So I have been playing with using abusan bones, which would be what you would use on a low warp loom like this. I don't actually have enough of them at the moment, but it is possible to get more. Oh, I have almost screwed that up. So you probably cannot. I'm going to try. Don't get dizzy. I'm going to try zooming in. Here I am. So then the next color comes in here, and I want to outline it. So I put this white over too far there initially. I want the next color to come here. And actually, a good way to just mark that for myself. I'm just going to add this is just to help me remember not to put the white in there. That next color outline, if I put that there, I'll be like, oh, I can't put white in over that. So yes, there have been lots of fun things. You can tell I'm excited about this piece. I have lots of yah-yahing to do about it. It's been a lot of fun. The idea came from my hike of the Colorado Trail this year, and the amazing wildflowers. There was so much rain in Colorado this year. The wildflowers were just completely astounding. Thanks for the shout out, Barbara. It's a lot of work already. I've been weaving every day. This is something that I try to, Tommy Scanlon says, depending on who she's talking to, weave every darn day or weave every damn day. And if you're familiar with Tommy and she says weave every damn day, that means that she knows you well enough to know she can say damn. But I've been weaving every day, and it's made every day for the last week and a half maybe. And even if it's only for an hour, it makes a difference. I usually weave every day. I just, it's often on samples and small things. I've been trying to weave every day on this. I have to weave lots and lots of samples for teaching, and just there's always something else to weave, but a lot of it isn't my own personal work. So it's fun to weave on this. So I am using the beater here. I really like these, let's see if I do this, you can see it. Magpie beaters. This is just the medium beater. It's not weighted. Probably could bring that back out a little bit. But on the floor loom, oh, it's bigger than I thought. You get this snapping motion, like I'm pushing with my fingers and snapping it towards me. I almost flipped it right into my lap. Because so I use the beater on the loom. This has an overhanging beater, which you can see in the little video. It's swinging forward, so it hangs at the top of the loom and swings forward. But as you can see in the overhead, the beater's cutting it off a little bit. I have about an inch to go before I get to where the reed is, because this is higher. So I'll keep building stuff up and use the beater when I can. Yeah, Leah, I'll add a photo. It's too hard for me with the tech to find a photo right now to pop up, but I'll add a photo of the Harrisville rug loom. Hold on. I'll make sure I have one next week or in 2 weeks, and I'll add one to the course page where I put stuff about what I talked about. Yes, definitely I'll add one. There's also, if you go to my blog and search Harrisville rug loom, there's a really old post, but it has pictures of this loom in it, and it talks about the warp extender. So if you go there, you can just, I think if you search Harrisville rug loom, you'll be able to find it. The piece is 40 inches, so side to side 40 inches. This loom will only weave about, I like to say it'll weave 45. I think Harrisville says it'll weave 45, but that is pushing. The shafts that have the heddles on them are barely 45 inches wide, so that's really pushing it. 44, I think it will do at the max. This is actually set at 41 inches wide because I know it's going to pull in a little bit, and I want the final size of the piece to be 40 inches, and it'll be 40 inches high by 24 inches wide. So that's what Barbara was asking. Okay. Yeah, so I can zoom in again. I zoomed out. This is not the most interesting weaving. If I would stop talking and just keep weaving here, I could fill this in and maybe you could see the next part, but this is where I was today, and so this is what you get to see. And this is the way tapestry weaving works. When you want to do outlines or hatching or something, you have to weave up to the next thing. So it's always built like bricks. You always start from the bottom and weave up. So it means I can't obviously put in this next color until I fill in the background with the white. Nan asked why I chose white. I don't have a good reason, Nan. Wanted to try it. And my friend Sarah, hi Sarah, from Idaho, Sarah Sweat, said she wove a whole set of huge pieces with a white background. So I figured if it's good enough for Sarah, I could at least try it. I might hate it, but I won't know it until I weave it. I liked the sample, so why not try it? The silk is, there we go. I was shocked by the, oh, Marlena says she loves her 60-inch Harrisville. When I get a bigger studio, I'm gonna get a bigger Harrisville rug loom. I think. We'll see. But I would love to have a wider one. So here, I'll show you my decision making here. So the little dots, this is the Sharpie that I use now. It says industrial, and the ones they're making now are all in red instead of black. Sharpie has gone to saying that they don't guarantee that the black are actually permanent, even though they say permanent marker on it. But this is supposed to be leak proof. It's supposed to be heat and water fast. So that's what you want with tapestry, because you're going to steam it, it's going to be very hot, and it's going to be wet. And I don't want those little marks bleeding on my white stuff. But as you can see on the this happens more in the floor loom than any other loom. The little marks roll. So let's see if you can see that. Yeah. So they sort of disappear. You can see like here they've disappeared. It's not that they're gone. They've just rolled around. So I often have to go back, and if I really can't see where they are, I have to go back and mark them. I'm trying not to do that too much on this tapestry because the background is white. But my question right here was, where is that mark? And there, if I turn it, it's right there. So this, on this little step, I could have put one more turn. These shapes are sort of free-flowing, amorphous. I'm more concerned of them sort of being flowy than that they are in any particular shape. So I'm not necessarily following those steps all that carefully. I just, it's a thing that your brain does when you weave more, that you sort of think like a tapestry artist. You think like tapestry. And so thinking like, okay, right here, I know I'm going to need another step here, and I know that's far enough that I would need 2 sequences, and maybe I'm going to need 3 sequences here. Well, how do I make those steps smoother instead of going over 1 and then suddenly going over 3 so that it's more jagged? Those are the kind of things that your brain starts to do as you're working. And sometimes you get it wrong and you have to go back and, let's see. You have to go back and fix it. The problem with this being such a wide piece is that it's hard to show you the whole thing. Actually, I could angle the camera a little bit since I'm not working on the second half right now. So I'm just, can you even see that? You couldn't see that. I'm making a butterfly with this mix, and can you see that? The white with the silk in it. This silk has been really nice. I've never tried it before. It's from Treenway, which there's a lot of people who make great silk or who sell great silk, but Treenway is right down the road from me, and the woman who owns it is in a guild that I'm in, and it's a really great company. She has some really pretty stuff. So support your local people, or just order from Treenway. They're great. Okay, I'm going to move this over a little. Okay. Jamie, the Sharpie was waterproof, heat proof. So the big thing they say about that Sharpie is that it is heat resistant to 500 degrees, which I don't need it to be 500 degrees. But the steam that I'm using on my tapestries is pretty hot, so I want it to withstand the heat. So what was I going to say? Oh, so I've always used hand-dyed, my own hand-dyed, and this yellow, it's called Daffodil. It's a beautiful color, but when I first put that in, I almost took it right out again. It is super bright, and I was a bit shocked by it. Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys, bear with me. I'm learning how to figure out this camera thing. I almost was like, I can't go with that acid yellow, but decided I was just gonna do it, and we'll see how it actually matches some of the colors of the flowers that I was trying to match. So so I chose it. The lightest daffodil, so the lightest value, is quite lovely, and that's what happens when you increase the depth of shade with a pure hue like this yellow, is that it just becomes really forceful. And I use yogurt tubs for to put my yarn balls in so I don't roll all over the place. Let's see if you can see this. So butterfly, I think there's a YouTube video about butterflies. If you're using a floor loom or one of these grabby yarns that works well in butterflies, Harrisville Highland works well in butterflies. It's cheap. It's a free way to hold your yarn. So anyway, this is the thing with commercial dyed versus hand dyed. I obviously got this on the loom a lot faster than I would have. Because I didn't dye any yarn for it. But I also just took the colors that were available. So it's a different thing. In this case, I'm using the colors in the hues that they are selling them in. Of course, you could mix hues, which in some other tapestry I will do, but like you could mix a different light, a pink or something with the yellow and change how it looks completely. So it's not like that's the only choice I had. It's just that I wanted the colors to be solid and not look like they were mixed for this particular piece. All right. Time is it? You can't see my feet, and maybe I'll take a picture and show you next time, because I doubt I'm going to have a camera on my feet. But I have the treadles set up. The treadles are changing the shed for me, and I have, because I only do tapestry on this loom. I just have it tied up, so I have 2 treadles on one side and 2 treadles on the other for the 2 sheds. I love being able to change the shed with my feet. But again, it's how I learned. There's lots of ways to weave tapestry. I will say that treadles are faster. Okay. Ooh, that's kind of... So bubbling for weft tension. So one of the other huge advantages of a floor loom is this, and I will have to take a picture of this too to show you, but as I pull this beater forward, I can look at the warps going through the reed, and I can see immediately if I am getting narrower or getting wider. So it's, if you see tapestries where the edges of the tapestries, the selvages are super amazingly straight, and I'm not saying that mine are perfect, but those are probably weavers. This is just a theory I have, but those are probably weavers who are using a floor loom with a beater. Not all of them. I've seen some amazing technicians that are using upright looms and bobbins with absolutely straight. Selvages like Sarah Sweat is a good example because she pays attention to those edge wraps. But people like Michael Rohde and Susan Iverson, if you look at their pieces ever in person, they both use a loom, something like this. They are using counter march looms. Actually, Michael is, I'm not sure. I think Susan uses the Gilmore, which is a jack loom. Anyway, they're using the beater bar and the loom, and so their pieces have super straight salvages. Just a little trivia. So this is the most boring weaving to watch. But next time I come back, hopefully I will be weaving some colors. All right. I'm in danger of forgetting y'all are here and just weaving away. So, yeah. So Audrey was saying, she was commenting on this. So I do this a lot depending on the yarn, Audrey. This is 3 strands of faro and 1 strand of the silk. And I've plied it lightly, very lightly on my spinning wheel. And this is the other reason why the butterflies work really well for me with this yarn. The yarn is slightly grabby. It has some tooth to it. And I really like doing this lightly plying the yarns and then making a ball. If I'm using a lot of the color, I'm not doing that with the array, which is already a 2-ply yarn, and it doesn't play that well when you ply it on a spinning wheel anyway. And also there's no real reason to do it for the smaller amounts I'm using of that. But it's a really great way to manage this white. There's so much of it. To put it in a ball like this is really helpful. It means I can sit down and wind up a whole bunch of it at one time on the wheel. And then I just ball it up on a ball winder. I do that all the time with my Harrisville Kohler singles on big pieces. And I even do it when I'm doing a lot of color gradation. I'm mixing colors, so I'll use 3 or 4 strands of that yarn in together, and I will mix those right on in the ply on the spinning wheel, and then make little tiny balls of them, so I have all the colors all ready to go. This is a little bit. Tiny, the tapestry fork, of course, beading with that is not as even as the beater and the loom. Sometimes I don't quite get it beat in exactly evenly, but you can adjust it. So thanks, Summer. Glad you like watching me weaving, even if it's kind of boring. Oh, sure, Nan. She is asking about the Abusan bones. Yes, I will. Because I will plan to be putting in, I'm almost, if I can get up to this little point, I can show you a little of the outlining. I plan to be, hopefully I'll be doing some colors next time, and I'll show you the experiment with the Abusan bones, which are these. They have this particular one, I think actually is from Abusan. I grabbed a couple when I was there in 2019 on Christine Colette's tapestry tour. Anyway, they are traditional for low work looms. And that one has a hole in the end, which is nice because you can use a pern winder to wind the yarn on. I don't have a need to do that for this tapestry because the amounts that I need for these little colored pieces are so small that I can just make a little, I can just pull off the amount I need from the cone instead of, if I were going to use a pern winder, I would have to have 3, and I wanted 3 or 4 of these. I would have to have 4 little bundles of them, and I'm not going to buy 4 cones of this, and I'm also not going to wind off little balls of it to be able to do that, because I don't need the time savings that much. But on a different piece, I might. I forgot, there was one more question. Oh, what direction am I plying the yarns? These are singles, so they are twisted to the right, and I'm plying them to the left. And the spinners among you will be able to say right away if that's S or Z. I am a spinner, but not as good a spinner as many of you are. Spinning is an amazing way to learn about yarn. I'm so grateful that I met Maggie Casey and live close enough to Boulder. I was able to take classes from her. And actually it was Sarah Sweat. Hey, Sarah. I think she might be here. It was Sarah that got me interested in spinning because she's always spinning with a spindle. And she gave me a little spindle years and years ago. And I really loved it. And so then I found Maggie and I learned to spin on a wheel. And I still spin a lot on spindles. Okay, we're getting closer. Can you see this? We're almost to that line. Come on, Rebecca. I'm not using lazy lines. If I was using lazy lines, I could have just built this up, or cutbacks. I could have just built this up quicker, much quicker, but that was a conscious choice. I didn't want the diagonal lines in the background. And I did sample that, and I didn't necessarily like it, but well, maybe I'll do it on another one. It is a great option for texture in large areas of one color. Plus, functionally, it allows you to weave just a part at a time. I was going to weave the rest of this morning before I got on, and then I had a little camera issue, and it took me all the time I had to fix that. I just realized I have this is another magpie that's wider. Let's try it. Just in terms of less wax going across. And it doesn't have quite, it's a little bit heavier, and it doesn't have quite the, this is longer. I don't know, there's a little more flip to it. I have one more here. This one is weighted. This is one that the person, John, made before he sold before he sold the company to Becky, so. Okay. Almost there. Just feels really different. It's funny how you get used to the tools that you really like to use, and it's hard to switch to something else. It also has a different effect. Different tools and different looms will look different in the weaving. Haha, yes, sir, you are a spindle enabler. You made me a spindler. Oh, Nancy asked, when you get into that weaving space, do you have a hard time tearing yourself away, thinking of weaving past the tiredness moment? You know, I do, especially if what I have to do is something that's not as thrilling as weaving, it can be hard. As far as the tiredness moment, though, I will say that it's like any form of exercise. Weaving, depending on what loom you're using and stuff, can be physically tiring, and I think you have to be careful with that weaving past the tiredness moment, because you don't want to hurt yourself. I think it's a matter of training. I know it's funny to say that about weaving, about tapestry weaving, but isn't it true? Like, it's a matter of working up to being able to weave for 6 hours a day or whatever, versus just pushing through it. And that might not be what Nancy meant, but I will show you how I will do this. I think, what time is it? I'll show you how I will be doing this outline, even though I'm not quite ready for it. There was a little tiny piece of blue, you probably can't see that, in the thru yarn. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was on the shelf next to a blue, or there was one little fiber of blue in the, that beater's bugging me. One little fiber of blue in the carding machine or something. I think when they run white, they have to really clean off the cards before they run the white color. Anyway, I couldn't get it out, and I'm like, well, there's a little piece of blue in my white. Maybe that's interesting and an idea for another piece. I have been wanting to work on some hand spun tapestry yarn that's designed. And so that would be an interesting idea. Okay. All right. Let me just do this one more time so I don't lose my place later. It's so easy to do. I actually had to make a little sign. You can't see this in the camera, but I had to make a sign. This is how long it's been since I woven on this loom. The top of the design is on the right side. I had at some point sat down and had it backwards, which matters for the way I'm putting the colors. And yeah, now I have a cheat to remind me that it's flipped over. It's upside down and flipped. And so it is, the cartoon is up behind me on the wall and it's backwards from that. So it, until your brain flips it over, it can be a little bit disconcerting. And the biggest thing is when it comes off the loom, every time it happens, every time I look at it, I'm like, that's not the tapestry I wove because I wove it from the back. You get used to it pretty quickly, but it is an interesting phenomenon, which I've heard many of you comment on also. Okay, now I think I can at least show you how I'm going to do this outline. Okay, so this, let me change this camera back so we can talk about this. Oh, don't get dizzy. Also, good thing I don't have sweat stains in my armpits that I know of. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll play with this some more, see if I can figure out a more elegant way to do that, but I doubt there is one. I also have I'm fussing with my feet because there's treadles in the middle and then there's boxes on each side. There's a stool on one side and a box on the other side to rest my feet on. It's an ergonomic thing. This bench is super high and you don't want the back of your legs to be, think about this for any loom bench you're sitting on. You don't want the back of your legs to be pinched against the edge of a loom bench. It's really bad for your nerves and stuff, especially if you're weaving a lot. So when you're weaving tapestry, you're in one position for a long time. So having those things to put my feet on are a really good ergonomic solution. So you can, let's see. Yes, you can see this. Okay, so this is the shape, and I ideally would have this all the way filled in. And so this shape I want outlined in this new color. And I am doing an eccentric outline. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it, and I'll leave enough yarn to finish it. When I fill this other part in. Okay. Probably means I'm going to have to take some stuff out again, but that's okay for demonstration purposes. So this I know is going to be, I'm going to mix these two colors in this shape from one to the other, which actually I'm using 4 strands of this array yarn, and that will give me 5 butterflies total. For the, I know it's going to be lighter on this side, so I'm going to use a piece of this. So here I have, how much of that can you see? Okay, here I've already done the outline for this section. We'll see if I like it. It's a sort of blue-green against the edge of the yellow, but I don't want the outline to go the whole way, so this will be outlined with the color that will be in that shape. It doesn't matter if that doesn't make any sense. Also, I don't work so hard to conserve yarn with the Harrisville color singles and the array. I have an endless supply of Harrisville color singles because I can always dye more, and I always dye too much, and I get I don't really get a wholesale price on them, but that yarn is fairly inexpensive. And so I find that I approach the array differently, which is a different experience for me to be using a yarn that I'm more careful to conserve. I mean, I try not to waste yarn anyway, but I'm saying that because I wanted to make sure I had a long enough piece to do this whole thing without creating more tails. It's the only reason. And I'm going to take this one out and make it continuous. Oh, I'm in the different sheds. Okay, so here, where those came together, I'm in opposite sheds. You can see that here that these are open and these are closed, and I need this outline to be all in the same shed. So there's a couple different ways I can do that. I'm going to do it right now by using these little tails and shifting this back. And I bet that is also going to be in the wrong shed. Let's see. Yep. There's a little tiny piece of white. And this is one of those instances where I'll probably use a mirror and look underneath and check out what's going on after I do it. My teacher, who was James Kohler, would have called this crepod. I'm actually going to take that little, I'm going to zoom this in so you can see it better. That's probably way better. I had this outline going like this, and it probably would work fine, but I'm actually going to leave it a little bit stepped and take that part of the outline out. I'm going to have the same thing on this end. Oh, you can't see it. Way on this end of the yellow shape. Okay, so now my sheds are all the same. And from here, oh, that's a great question, Emily. I didn't explain that. Okay, so from here, I've now eccentrically outlined all of this. I will probably put in this piece that will go all the way across to here. This will stay the green, and then I will start weaving with these colors. So next time I will attempt to show you some of that outlining a little bit more closely because it's fun. It's a way I really like weaving. It's, you know, you build up shapes, and I love doing the eccentric outlines, and then you build up more shapes, and it's simple and it's a lot of fun. So that is part of why I designed the piece the way I did, because it's a fun way to weave, and why not have fun? So there's one other question. Oh, Emily wants to know, did you explain why you're using more than one butterfly to fill in the whole area? So I didn't explain that. More than one white butterfly. That is to do with weft tension. So if you're new to tapestry, I talk about weft tension a lot in all of my beginning classes, Intro to Tapestry, Warp and Weft, and Little Looms, although I talk about it the most probably in Warp and Weft. It's because I need space in there to keep the piece from drawing in. Weft tension is how much weft goes into any one area of the piece, and it's a lot easier to control that if you have more than one butterfly. One butterfly going all the way across and then changing to areas where there are multiple butterflies means the weft tension is shifting because there's more space when you have more butterflies, but where the relays are coming together, and so it's a lot easier to control with more than one butterfly. It might be even easier had I taken that cutback option, lazy line cutback option. Sometimes those regular diagonals are even easier to control, but I have the advantage of the beater bar to check my weft tension all the time, so that helps me. Anyway, that might have been clear as mud, but there is a free YouTube video about weft tension, which I did for the American Tapestry Alliance media tour a couple years ago. I think if you just Google on my channel weft tension, you'll find that, and that will explain a little bit more about it. All right. It's great to see you all. Sorry I ran out of time to show you everything I wanted to show you, but I will be showing you again. In 2 weeks, I'll be back on whatever 2 weeks from today is. I'm pretty sure it's December something. 8 maybe? No. Anyway, you'll figure it out. I'll see you then, and in the meantime, I'll have several more inches woven, and we'll talk about the middle of the piece by that point. Happy Thanksgiving if you're in the United States and you celebrate Thanksgiving. Whatever you celebrate, have some gratitude this week for all of the things. Y'all are great. Thanks for coming, and I will... I'll talk to you soon, and I'll keep weaving. Now that you've seen this on Change the Shed, I might post some Instagram photos so you can see my progress. Oh, the other thing is that my once a year sale is this Monday, Fiber Monday. I call it Fiber Monday, the 29th. And the codes are on my website on a blog post I put up yesterday. If you want any of my online classes, the one I did with Sarah Sweat, Fringeless, which is amazingly fun, is 25% off. And all the other classes are 15% off. So, and you can get multiples. If you've been wanting a couple of classes, you can use that code more than once. So just make sure if you're going for the Fringeless class, you use the special code for Fringeless because otherwise you'll only get 15% off instead of 25. All right, thanks you guys. It's been really fun to talk to you, and have a great Thanksgiving, and keep weaving, and use the hashtag Change the Shed if you use Instagram, or if you're in my tapestry group online for my online classes, post what you're doing there sometimes. Many of you do, and I'd love to see it. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've been weaving for 20 years. It's really fun to see what people are working on. All right. Love y'all. Have a great Thanksgiving.